Her next section, she picks on Einstein.
Well, you can't do that.
Yeah. Einstein's dilemma, she says. She says, what we learn from these examples is that many prominent thinkers live in a two-story or bipolar existence, right? In their professional work, they adopt a reductionistic philosophy that regards people as essentially nothing or unable to do anything. But when they leave their laboratories and go home for the day, they have to switch to a contrary paradigm in order to treat people justly and humanely to avoid life that is, as you mentioned, intolerable.
Yeah.
Right? So even the great Einstein, she tells us, was caught in the same dilemma. On the one hand, he writes, human beings in their thinking, feeling, and acting are not free. Einstein are not free, but are as causally bound as the stars in their motions. We're
we're planetary bodies. You could land rovers on us. We are so conditioned to just be non-willing entities.
Yeah, unable to will. Right?
Yeah, we are specks of dust on a planet orbiting, and so we are just following the motion of our previous cause and effects.
Yeah. But she says, on the other hand, he says, I'm compelled to act as if free will exists, because if I want to live in a civilized society, I must act responsibly. Wow, right?
Yeah.
So notice she says Einstein's phrase as if is the giveaway, right? That he's talking about an irrational leap of faith. And she notes that the source of this phrase is in the writings of another German, Immanuel Kant, right? On the one hand, Kant thought that science led to the conclusion that humans are elements in a vast machine operating, by the laws of physics. But on the other hand, he said, to salvage morality, we must act as if we were free, right? And to ratify our moral standards, we must act as if God exists. This is a really interesting argument. So Kant here is suggesting that we have to act as if God exists in order to be moral creatures.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? So he says, for instance, justice. Well, justice doesn't exist. Ultimate justice doesn't exist in this world.
Right. Yeah.
There are lots of people that get away with stuff, right? And so there must be an afterlife, or at least we have to act like there's an afterlife where somebody is going to be ultimately judged. But in order to be ultimately judged, you have to have a judge who is who knows all the facts, who's all knowing. Otherwise, they could be judged in error, and that's not justice, right? And you have to have a judge who is good, so that they can be judged correctly and rightly according to a moral standard, right? And finally, in order for justice to exist, you have to have a judge who is able to back up the judgment that they adhere to, right? In other words, they have to have the power in order to to apply the justice. So what you have is an afterlife. You have an all-knowing, all-good, all-powerful judge. What does that sound like to you?
A work of fiction, obviously. Yeah. But and again, like these are ideals that have fostered the up until now the modern Western world, and it seems like it's the whole have your cake and eat it too. It's the communist role of once the capitalists come in, those evil capitalists, and they build society. Then we come in and take, and then we bleed it dry until that wasn't real socialism, right, and so it's like, well, right, because you completely upended everything, and now you want to say that this is the opposite. And along the lines of justice, we have this ideal of we'd rather 1,000 guilty men be set free than an innocent man be sent off to pay for a crime he didn't commit. I mean, that right there, within it is the scope of the idea of what you're saying is that there's justice that's meted out. Yes, not here in this world, but in the next. And so, yes, the guilty men will always pay the penalty for their actions, always, in some capacity. But then if an innocent person pays inappropriately in this life, they've been they've had their life stolen from them that didn't need to be. And so that's how careful we should be within the meting out of justice.
Yeah.
And so that's a Christian ideal.
Yeah, they're borrowing from Christianity.
And so why should we do
Stealing
that
from
now?
our worldview.
It seems like now we should just hang them high, all of them, because if a guilty person goes unscathed, then they could get away with it. So it's best to plant evidence and do all these nasty things that we find abhorrent. But that's not how
right.
they're
Well, if you don't believe that there's going to be ultimate justice at the end of something, right, and this person is about to get free, and you are committed somehow that there must be justice, then what do? Right? You have to kind of fake it. She says here that in Kant's view, it's impossible to know whether these theological teachings are true. Right, so he says we really don't know, but to encourage moral behavior, he says we must live as if they were true. The phrase "as if" then signals a concept that has been moved to the upper story. Right, so here morality is moved. We have to live as if these moral concepts are true. These theological concepts are true, and so he puts them in the upper story. Right, because it's impossible to know, but we still have to live as if they are true, right? And so this concept is if. So instead of giving up the worldview because of these types of situations, right, in the face of contrary facts and that sort of thing, she says that folks that believe like this endure a severe mental schizophrenia.
Right.
Right.
On one hand, you want to say, wow, we are all robots, and then on the other side you say, whoa, you can't live like robots.
Yeah.
Life will be bad for me, at least me.
Right.
And then
I want to live in a civilized world.
Yeah. So can you program yourselves not to be robots then?